Hi everyone, and welcome to this second video in the series that's brought to you by PPS and Morgan Solus. I am Tracy Linnell, and I'm going to be taking you through a series of slides today that just covers the human element of dealing with a crisis. So the first question we've got to ask ourselves is, well, what is a crisis and how does it differentiate from any other event or incident? So a crisis is typically something that is very complex. It normally springs on us that we're unaware that it's about to happen. It's unpredictable and comes with a huge amount of pressure. Typically, a crisis is a threat to people or to their livelihoods, as we've seen with COVID-19, and it expands very rapidly. The biggest thing in a crisis that is against us is time. When we have something like this that happens in a crisis situation, we don't have the luxury of analyzing heaps of data, trying to work out what it is we want to do and how we're going to respond. In that fight or flight mode, when a crisis hits us, we need to be able to very, very quickly make decisions and act. Otherwise, we're in a really serious position. So it's very interesting to understand what actually happens inside our brains when we go into this fight or flight response mode. Inside the brain, we've got something called the hypothalamus. And what actually happens is the hypothalamus activates something called the sympathetic nervous system. This in turn triggers impulses that actually activate our glands and our smooth muscles. And this is really what is called the neural activity part of the brain response when we go into fight or flight mode. What also happens with the sympathetic nervous system is that it activates the adrenal medulla. This in turn stimulates two things. It releases norepinephrine, which is of course adrenaline, and also releases epinephrine. These two then get sent into the bloodstream and are what the hormonal changes are that actually occur. Second system that the hypothalamus activates is the adrenal cortical system. This stimulates the pituitary gland to secrete hormone called ACTH. And what happens is ACTH arrives at the adrenal cortex and releases approximately 30 hormones. These also go into the bloodstream. And the neural activity combined with these hormones is what actually triggers the fight or flight response inside our bodies. So how do we see this manifesting in our physical form? What do our bodies actually do? Well, as we've mentioned, the brain releases ACTH and cortisol. The lungs, typically we get into a state of shock, and so we start to breathe quite rapidly or short of breath. Our heart, obviously heart rate increases. Stomach, digestion slows or stops because the body is telling it that that's not a priority activity to do. And normally what happens is our hands or our extremities, we start to shake or we feel that trembling feeling. In addition, our pupils dilate, we have a dry mouth or, there's minimal saliva. Our liver actually releases glucose, and the skin, we have that increased sweat production situation. So what's actually happening here is the body and the brain are working together. The brain is sending a signal to the heart and to the other vital organs to protect it. It's saying, take the blood flow from everywhere else and protect the vital organs. Now, why is this important to understand? Because what it actually does is it decreases our vision by up to 70%. It influences our decision making. So in a crisis, because the blood flow is all pretty much going to our vital organs, it makes it quite difficult for us to focus, to concentrate, to make decisions, and to actually ingest information and process it properly. So what can we do about this? Well, we've just picked up 3 techniques that may actually help. The first one, which is one you're probably quite familiar with, is obviously use your breath or breathing techniques to calm your body down. So when we're in that flight or fight response mode, our breathing is telling our bodies to go, to protect, to survive. What happens when we actually slow our breathing down is that we're telling our bodies to go into a rest and digest state. And that actually releases and slows down those hormonal influences that are happening. The second one is practice when you're not upset. So this is sometimes easier said than done. But what we're really talking about here is that as human beings, we have a lot of muscle memory and retention. So if you can practice in a normal state of having to calm down, to breathe, to actually manage your physical and your emotional response, the body will remember that for the next time you go into that fight or flight response mode. And the third one that we look at is, you've got this. we need to remember that we are very resilient human beings, that we have a lot of resources available to us. And what our mind actually tells our body is typically how we manifest our behavior and reactions. So instead of focusing on the stress, rather think of an instance where you've managed to overcome some difficulty and you're actually telling your body that you're able to do this. So that's just a very short and sweet video insert. There's our contact details if you've got any questions for us. And please join us for the next video insert, where we will cover 5 critical techniques to help you respond to a crisis within your business or organization. Thank you very much. Take care and be safe.